Harrow. After Reamer's warning of potential Rysik tracks proved a false lead, the army sat around in the sands of Rakasif and Fagori for turns of the moons on end. No matter how many missions Reamer and the other surveillance and reconnaissance raids ran in the Rysik lands, none succeeded in finding a trace of the nest. Yet, towns still disappeared. King Tanzanite's transportation mage often discovered a missing town or village before the company did, and he had to let D12 know. For as many new platoons joined their extended camping trip, they still desperately waited for a medic to join them. Of all the healers currently in training, they would be studying under King Tanzanite's low healing mage for at least another few turns in the moons. Scabbard and Harrow's many other recruitments had joined them, but practicing swordsmanship was still against the rules. The citizens of Rakasif had originally appreciated the extra business the growing company brought, but their extended presence eventually strained the available food supply, which turned the appreciation to resentment. When the company was stationed in Fagori, Harrow tended his family's old crops the best he could, but they were dying from the poor weather. His fellow culinary specialists, and even some of the nobility fighters, tended the neighborhood farms just to occupy themselves. Between all the town's fields, they kept enough food on plates. One afternoon, N15 gathered their platoon together. "There's been a development," weeping erupted from somewhere else in the company. N15 shook her head, ignoring it, but looking on the verge of tears herself. "What is it?" "The Southern Crusade won't be joining us." "Why?" "We're waiting on their numbers. A myriad of men can't just desert us," Sickle insisted. N15 closed her eyes and took in a breath. "They didn't desert us, Sickle. Recall Harrow's warning of the Vahantry? All the platoons that didn't make it to us because those bastards slaughtered them on the road? Well, the reason we've been enjoying peace these last few turns of the moons is because they turned their attention to targeting our southern brothers and sisters." "All 10,000? Reamer asked in disbelief. "The high combative mage recorded fewer than a dozen survivors, and most of them are missing. So, essentially, yes, all 10,000. "There's no chance now. I'll never see my family again." Harrow's legs weakened beneath him. He collapsed to his knees and stared at the ground. He didn't care when his kneecaps impacted with the sand and jolted his nerves. Reamer wrapped her arms around him and held tight. "How?" Harrow's heart went out to his deceased comrades. He would never have guessed that they would have fallen before his own company. He recalled the face of the Vahantry woman who had spared him. He couldn't believe she was a murderer then, but he understood how naive he could be. He would not be so quick to disbelieve again. "They aren't releasing many of the details because they want to track down the perpetrators, but we do know it was poisoning." "The one hope we've been holding on to is gone." He returned Reamer's embrace and buried his face in her hair as the reality sunk in. Additional wails erupted across the camp. Angry shouts denied the news, and friends clung to one another. Those who had family members taken found refuge within the loving arms of their platoon members. Of Harrow's platoon, Reamer's village was the only one left standing. Sickle, Brut, Tuner, N15, and the others sought comfort together to mourn the loss of hope. That night, fires burned low. Harrow made extra vegetable soup, but the stress of the day increased everyone's need for comfort, so the rations disappeared quickly. Many retired early, but Tuner stuck around the campsite. Staring into the dying embers, he sang, "10,000 men marching up through the land with the hopes of the realm, to slay the vermin that terrorize our homes and all that we've ever had. But the bloody Vahantry, with their tricks and their poisons, learned how to overwhelm the noble crusaders, the soldiers, the mages, to doom the rest in the sand." Everyone listened to the silence after Tuner concluded. "Couldn't have written a cheerier tune, man," Sickle asked. "We all already feel like shit." "It's not about everyone else. It's how I'm lamenting my family." Tuner retreated into his tent. Others left the campsite, including Reamer, who walked away from the camp and sat cross-legged among tall grasses. Harrow followed and knelt across from her. They each had an opposite view of a sunset. "How many more are we going to allow to die before we do something?" She shook her head, staring toward Hinook. "We can't do anything." "Yes, we can. Even if we only convince 200 of our comrades to follow us, we can fight. Does she mean to usurp D12? Harrow's mind raced with questions. Where would we go? We still don't know where the nest is. No, we don't. The Rhyseglae are good at covering their tracks. In all the missions we've run, we haven't found a single trace of them leading back to their nests. Harrow pulled away and searched Reamer's face for her meaning. The next time I find Scout's tracks, I'm not reporting them to the Major General. I'm following them. Reamer, you can't. It's for D12 to decide which leads to follow. He ignored the ones I was sure about and checked up on the ones I thought were more circumspect, only to punish me for a bad report when there wasn't an attack. The next time I find fresh ones, he'll bring up how I was wrong about the markings in Crusade. You know how he did it when I tried to warn him about Yukala, and when I discovered the ones leading south to Pavgar. D12's punishment of Reamer seared Harrow's mind. He had never felt so useless as when the company had returned from their march to Crusade, and D12 had whipped Reamer for allegedly wasting their time. For fear of retribution, all the surveillance and reconnaissance rates hid their evidence, and it contributed to the perpetuation of their camping trip. The company knew they could have prevented at least 2 raids, or at least tried to help, but no one dared to risk being wrong besides Reamer. However, D12 would not act without at least 2 corroborating testimonies, and he hadn't sent a second rate to travel with her any of the times she found evidence. Harrow had only heard such rumors through Reamer, but he believed her. Harrow empathized with Reamer's frustrations, but disagreed on her plan. It would be better to request verification first. If I return to ask for another of my raid to verify what I've seen, they'll have to make another trip, and the Rhyseglae will have taken whatever town the evidence was in and left with it by the time the company reaches it. I don't intend to suffer another punishment. 1 infection was enough for me. I know. Harrow squeezed her scarred hand. He looked into her eyes and feared what she was planning to do. He didn't want her risking herself in such a dangerous way. I promised to help you get your family back. I'm not breaking that promise. But the first step towards liberating them is finding them. I should come with you then. It'll be safer with the both of us. We'll be more likely to get caught with 2. Besides, it's my job to leave camp and look for clues. If you leave, you'll be marked as a traitor for abandoning your post. Reamer, I appreciate your commitment, but I'd prefer you to live and fight alongside me than die with only of a whisper of a likelihood that it will mean something. Harrow shifted his weight from atop his numbing legs to the ground. She placed a tender touch to his cheek and uncrossed her legs to lean toward him. We'll make progress without the Southern Crusade. The ability's been with us from the start. We must believe we can make a difference, rather than waiting for the next hope, the next platoon, the next company, the next medic. We're fooling ourselves that they're the answer to earning our capabilities as fighters. We'll never get anything done that way. We'll wait forever and never be ready. We have the strength, we have the wit, we have the skill, we have the agency. Let's use it. Reamer's words invigorated him, but not in the way she had probably intended. He rested his forehead against hers. He breathed in her scent. Despite the desert's heat, it was still sweeter than all the men's. Reamer, he said her name tenderly. I love your tenacity. I love your drive. I look forward to seeing your beautiful face every day I wake up, and I miss you every day you're out running a mission. I worry over your safety constantly, and I hope to cook every ration to your liking. You inspire me, and you make me want to be a better person. I appreciate you in my life, and I never want to think about it without you. She looked at him through her long dark lashes and shifted her hand up to his face to trace the edge of his ear and play with his hair twists. Are you finally going to say what you told me on my deathbed? He leaned into her touch and savored it. He wanted to touch her the same way, but didn't have the confidence to do so yet. His heart was in his throat. I love you. I've loved you for a long time. Smiling, she said, You mean so much to me. You're my best friend. I pray every night we're apart that I'll see you again, and it delights me every time you're there waiting for me when I return from a mission. I love your compassion, your spirit, your humor. I love you too. He pressed his lips together and licked them. He was comfortable confessing himself to Reamer. They had both known how they felt about one another. It was just a matter of time and opportunity to sneak away from Sickle, Brutton, Tuner. Now, his nerves started to misbehave. He looked from her mouth to her eyes and wanting. Before he ran out of courage, he asked, Can I kiss you? She tilted her head pointedly. I shouldn't have to make all the first steps. Harrow shivered. He was scared to kiss her, even though she wanted him to. It was different. He had never kissed anyone before. He worried he would mess it up. They were already so close. It was only a little more to go. The more he thought of it, the more he doubted himself. I'm going to mess it up. I'll look stupid when I try to kiss her, and she'll laugh at me. She won't be able to look past my pores or the little hairs on my cheeks. I'll scratch her with my scraggly beard. My lips will swallow up half her face, and she'll be disgusted. I won't be able to control my spit, and it will make everything uncomfortable. Basil, everything can go wrong. How does anyone kiss someone else? The idea feels so unintuitive. I'd be more comfortable doing anything else. We can't keep sitting here like this in silence. It'll become awkward after another few heartbeats. I might already be too late. Did I miss my chance? Eternity must have passed in the time I decided to do this. Maybe I can cut back on a couple of my fears. Harrow disconnected his forehead from hers and whispered into her ear. Close your eyes. She did. Well, she still might find it gross, but at least she won't judge me or laugh at how I look. He drew back to look at her as she waited for him. She wore her kind, patient smile. He reached up to cup her face in his hand, but he wasn't certain where to place it or what to do with it once it was up there, so he withdrew it again. Harrow, please. I can't delay any longer, else I truly will lose my chance. He closed his eyes, too, and hoped he wouldn't miss as he took the plunge. Knowing he was going in blind, the pressure of his expectations eased away. When his lips met hers, it was as easy as any of their little touches were. Her gentle lips responded to his, and none of his fears proved true. Excitement screamed in him. He was so overwhelmed in the moment that he didn't seem to have any thoughts at all. I finally kissed Reamer! He didn't know what else it meant for them, but it was at least that. You couldn't have picked a better time to make a move with Reamer. You've raised all the spirits in camp, and filled my coin purse. Sickle laughed over the morning rations with their platoon. You had no idea how much of the company was in on the bet, did you? Harrow threw him a flat expression. Glad my life can serve as entertainment for the rest of you. It seems all it's good for these days. What does that mean? Fred asked. When I was sainted, it was just for the spectacle of it. A lot of people in company have said that they were inspired to join because of you, lad. I wouldn't underestimate the good that can be done from a compelling story such as yours. Tuner poked at the slice of lamb chop on his plate. I'm grateful for that part, but it feels like I'm constantly being watched and I can't escape it. It's easy enough to ignore when I'm spending time with you lot. But when I'm alone, Harrow shifted his attention to scan the camp. At least 4 other platoons were watching him, including the builder girls, who had practically stalked him the last couple of weeks. Now that the bet's over, perhaps you won't have as many checking up on the status of their wagered coin. Until you start the next bet. What could we bet on next? When their first child will be born? Sickle asked. Harrow's flat expression returned. If I could barely manage the courage to kiss Reamer, that will be a long way off. When Reamer exited the Major General's tent, Harrow whispered to them, Shut up! Sickle, Brett, and Tuner snickered. Reamer bounded over to the platoon. You 3 are giggling more than usual. I suspect trouble. N15 approached at the tail end of Reamer's comment. Certainly is. Harrow smiled at Reamer. He squeezed his arms to his side and tensed his legs unconsciously. As with every morning, it was a pleasure to greet her again. Do you have your next assignment? I'm heading to crusade. Harrow was disappointed she wouldn't be keeping watch around the campsite. Stay safe while you're out. When do you leave? After I eat, I'll collect a ration sack and be on my way. If one of you 3 could gather up the supplies for me in between your jesting, I'd be appreciative. Yes, your majesty. Great and noble lady of the camp, Tuner said sarcastically. Tuner, go do your job, N15 commanded through a mouthful of mashed fig. He grimaced. Yes, ma'am. Harrow served Reamer as slowly as he could. The longer it takes her to eat, the longer it'll be before she leaves. I see what you're doing, Harrow, N15 chastised. Get a move on. If Reamer's delayed and Cravade's taken before she gets there, I'll tell D12 who was responsible for her holdup. Don't think I've filled my quota of barking commands for the morning just because I told Tuner off. Harrow blushed and hurried. Thank you, Harrow. Reamer beamed at him. It shouldn't be as long as normal. You all are getting transferred to Rakasif again. There go the last of the crops, then. I'll be glad to see you there. Me too. More than a week had passed, but Reamer still had not returned to them. Harrow worried incessantly. Did she follow Riceglide tracks, as she said? Did she find them? Did they capture her? Did the Vahandri intercept her like they have others of her rate? Would they return to pursuing us after eliminating the Southern Crusade party? I'd worry about a massive poisoning too, if eating individual fruits wasn't our primary water source. They returned from Rakasif to Fagori to find the rest of the crops browning. Sorry, Fagori. We tried to sustain you. The next time we return, we won't know if we've arrived. Sand will have covered the last remains, and there will be nothing left to return to. We might as well stay in Rakasif now. Harrow moped over missing Reamer and his home. He went to the fields to check if he could salvage any of the fig trees, but it was too hot and too dry for them. In this part of the desert, they needed the aid of the weather barrier to grow. Asiel, please let Reamer find the nest, then bring her home to me. We need to get Master Stratus back as soon as we can. We need the rest of the town. I need my family. Sickle ran into the decaying field after Harrow. One of the other surveillance and reconnaissance raids have returned. They said Crusade has been taken. Any word of Reamer? Brett's listening to the informant addressing the company. If D12 permitted them to speak, it must be good. I came to tell you. Harrow nodded and sprinted back with Sickle. We might have found a trace of Reamer, the unknown soldier said. Just in time. When scoping out the area around the town, we looked for signs of tracks leading to their nest. But as with the other towns, the Reisigli smoothed the sand behind themselves. So what? Someone called from the assembled body. Give him a chance to finish. Harrow was desperate to know the rest. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't have looked quite as hard as we did, but since we feared Reamer had gotten mixed up in the raid, we checked for signs she might have been left behind. We noticed a bunch of small chunks of sandstone that barely stand out. Rocks? That's it? The rubble formed a trail in the direction of the Reisig lands, and we didn't see any other sandstone sediments in the area. We think Reamer might have been taken and used these rocks to mark their trail discreetly, so it couldn't be erased with a rake. That sounds like Reamer. She's probably been planning this for weeks. If the stones weren't native to the area, she likely collected a load of them the last time she got back from a solo scouting trip. Why'd she have to go to Crusade the night they were coming? Is she with the Reisigli as a captive, or is she trailing them? But Harrow knew the answer. The scouts would have mentioned if her tracks accompanied the stones. Grief and guilt crippled Harrow. He would have retched if he could have spared the water. He didn't want to imagine it. He wanted to come up with another alternative, but he'd be lying to himself. She had kept her promise. She had done exactly what she said she would. Reamer had sacrificed herself into the clutches of the Reisigli so the company could find the nest, so he could hope to find his family.